playing for glory, Arsenal way.
Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Talking Transfers on the Arsenal Way. It's that time again, transfers. It's the best thing though, we love it. I'm joined by two fantastic guests. Chris, first of all, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, Umar. I hope you're both keeping well. Good afternoon to everyone tuning in. As you say, you can't get enough of transfer news. It's like Christmas Day for us football fans, isn't it? When the summer transfer window's open, or when any transfer window is open. So, looking forward to discussing that furthermore this afternoon.
Alfie, how you doing?
Yeah, thank you. I'm not doing too bad. Hope you're both doing well, and hope everyone tuning in is doing well. Looking forward to getting into them. Like Chris says, like you both said, very exciting times and some very exciting names to sort of get into.
Yeah, so today this stream is basically focusing on what's next for Arsenal in the transfer window. With Oleksandr Zinchenko all but signed, we're just making an official announcement with that. We're just assessing what Arsenal will be looking to do, whether it's outgoings, whether it's incomings. But Chris, I'm going to come to you first. 33 players will be on the US tour once Zinchenko is confirmed. It's quite a big number. Mikel Arteta has repeatedly stated that he prefers 25 players. That's his ideal number that he wants in the squad. In your eyes, in your opinion, has it changed now? The shift is it going to be more towards outgoings rather than incomings for the next few weeks?
I think it could be, and especially taking into consideration what Arteta said after the game against Orlando yesterday. It was pretty clear that the club need to offload. It absolutely has to happen because it is a bloated squad at the moment. And, it's all fair and well us needing plenty of options and better strength and depth next season due to the Europa League and obviously the introduction of 5 substitutes. But at the same time, the manager will want to be working with players that he actually wants and that he's happy with. Just because, we've got players coming back from loans and, players that maybe haven't featured as much recently available doesn't mean that actually it's the right route to go down, because you've got players like Hector Bellerin, Lucas Torreira, Nicola Pepe, just to name a few, that actually prefer to move elsewhere. So, it is really important that the club look to move on these players as soon as possible, as smoothly as possible. They're still Arsenal players. You've got to remain respectful of that. But, the thing is, like I say, if you have players in that squad that don't want to be here or that the manager doesn't necessarily want to work with, then that can cause issues later down the line. And hopefully, like I say, once and if we can move some of those players on, it can allow Mikel Arteta to continue the real rebuild of his squad and bring more players in that he does want at the club and what he does want, who he does want to work with. So, yeah, fingers crossed we can see, sort of things on the outgoings front speed up relatively soon, and that will allow us to maybe get one or two more in towards the end of the window.
Alfie, I'm going to come to you. In past windows, Arsenal have tended to prioritize selling their players first and then looking to buy their targets. But this summer, there's been a shift in that Arsenal have gone out, bought their targets, whether that's Gabriel Jesus, now Oleksandr Zinchenko, Marquinhos, Matt Turner, Fabio Vieira. They've all come in. It's around 6 players. And now they've got a bloated squad. But in your opinion, as a fan, do you prefer this way rather than waiting?
Yeah, much prefer it. I seen something on Twitter earlier that at this point last year we'd only signed Tavares, and it's just you sort of forget how important it is to get the players signed early and in for a full pre-season. So when it does come to the start of the season, like we've mentioned, they're all settled in. They sort of get to know the squad, get to know the manager, the tactics, the style of play, everything. So yeah, I think it's good that we're sort of getting it done early. But I mean, you look at it in the January transfer window. We've seen how much of a risk it was for Mikel Arteta to offload a lot of the players. Especially another likes of Aubameyang, leaving us sort of short in that position with just Lacazette and Nketiah, I think the only 2 strikers we had available. Obviously with Balogun going on loan as well, and it was a massive risk. But you look at our squad being bloated now. with a couple of those outgoings. If we didn't get them gone in January, then maybe that would have, you know, halted the progress for some of the signings we've made this summer. So I think it's good that we are getting the business done early. But the only thing that does worry me, as we did mention earlier, I think some of the players that we've got, you know, I'm not entirely sure what Nicolas Pepe's wages are, but I can't imagine that it's a low figure, and maybe that's why we're struggling to get rid of him, because, you know, I'm not too sure how many clubs will want to pay those wages when, you know, they've sort of seen how he's played the last season and started this pre-season campaign. So I think that's sort of the struggle now, and the worry that we're not going to be able to get rid of these players, and then maybe not bring in a couple more signings that would make it, for me, a perfect window.
Chris, 33 players right now on the US tour is around 8. If we were to sell, we need to sell 8 to get that to Arteta's ideal number. Out of the squad right now, I'm going to put you on the spot. Which 8 players do you think will be departing more than likely?
Bernd Leno, for one, obviously moved to Fulham is on the cards, although there's reports coming out of Germany today that there's still no agreement between the clubs. And again, you know, it just reiterates the need to, you know, try and speed up these negotiations. Don't get me wrong, it's good in a way that the club are sticking to their guns and saying, look, no, we want this sum of money and we're not going to budge. But at the same time, you know, there's always that risk of it prolonging too long and you know, talks maybe stopping and falling through. So definitely the German international, Hector Bellerin, another one. Pablo Mari, you've got Nuno Tavares potentially going out on loan. Gosh, you have put me on the spot, Umar. Lucas Torreira, of course, has made it quite, you know, openly known that he wants to move elsewhere, and I think his agent has come out and said that there is an agreement in place between the player and Valencia. Ainsley Maitland-Niles, of course, his own future up in the air. Reece Nelson, could he go on another loan? You've been obviously speaking about Nicolas Pepe there. Fuller and Balogun, you know, you've been linked with another loan move after that stint with Middlesbrough last season. So yeah, so many players, you know, are there, and I would imagine available on the market right now. And I'm sure, you know, if a club calls up Arsenal and says, look, we're looking to sign one of those names, then Arsenal would very much welcome that. But the thing is, I mean, Alfie touched on it there about wages that some of our players are on. That's proved to be a stumbling block for clubs before. And not only that, but because these players maybe haven't been playing as much, they've been out on loan, or they're not very highly rated at the club, you know, it makes teams reluctant to pay, you know, significant money for them, because they've got no huge value to us as a team or to Arteta as a manager. You know, they're on the market for a reason, and clubs will be looking at that and be like, look, you obviously don't rate this player that highly enough, so we're not going to pay anything extravagant for him. So yeah, it is frustrating. And I mean, like, there's been so many times before, hasn't there, in a transfer window where Arsenal have left things late in terms of, well, both incomings but also outgoings as well. Things happen at the last minute, and unfortunately, that does seem to be a trend in a transfer window. Clubs will maybe pursue targets until the very last day when they know they might be able to get them on a better deal for a better price. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see how things develop. I'm you know, what, 40 days left remaining in that sort of bracket of the window. I'm relatively calm about it at the moment, because things can happen at a flick of a switch. There could be an agreement after some successful talks today, tomorrow, whenever. Things can you know, progress and change at any point. So I'm still relatively relaxed. But if we're in this situation, maybe with 1 week to go, then my stance would be a lot different, and I think my nerves will be sort of picking up a little bit, because, you know, as we've been speaking about, as we'll speak even more on in a moment, you know, these departures could have an impact, a direct impact on further business that the club does in terms of signings. So, you know, it is important. We know that there's, maybe a role in central midfield and out wide that we need to strengthen and want to strengthen. But as we're discussing, with a bloated squad and a lack of activity on the outgoings front, it might take a while before we see any progress on that side of things.
Could be the reason why Mikel Arteta, to be honest, has taken the likes of Lucas Torreira, Ainsley, Maitland-Niles, players that are not probably in his plans, but maybe he's trying to put them in the market, but it remains to be seen. But enough about outgoings. I don't think people want to hear about outgoings. More so, they want to be hearing about incoming. So, Alfie, the midfield area, there's been a lot of interest, obviously, during the summer with Youri Tielemans of Leicester City. In recent days, there's been talks of Arthur of Juventus. And then there's obviously Lucas Paquetá of Lyon as well. It's more than likely that one of these players, if we are going to be targeting a midfielder and we're looking to bring a midfielder in, will more than likely be one of these three players. But again, like I've done with Chris, I'm going to put you on the spot. If Edu comes to you this transfer window and says, Alfie, if you want to pick one of these players, who are you picking?
Youri Tielemans. I think that for me, out of the three, is the obvious choice. It sounds like he wants to join Arsenal. He's clearly a very talented player. I think that he'd suit Mikel Arteta's style of play quite well. I think there's a lot said about his pressing, which I think is something that you can work on. I think pressing is much easier to be coached into than technical ability, and he's clearly got the technical ability to play for Arsenal. Last year of his contract, I know you mentioned earlier, Umar, about Leicester trying to hold out for 40 million, and perhaps the fact that he is in his last year of his contract. We paid 45 million for Jesus in the last year of his contract. That might be why Leicester are sort of holding out for more money, because earlier reports suggested that we were looking to pay for 25 million and they wanted more around the 30 million mark. But I think that's probably what the hold up on that deal is. And I hope so, because I really hope that we can get it over the line. On the other two, I do like Paquetá as a player. I think that he is a very talented player. And, one of his main sort of attributes that we've seen while he's at Lyon is he's an absolute pressing machine. And, if we are looking to have this sort of pressing style of play, you look at the front line we've got already. Jesus showing it, and Ketia. We'd add to that, but I always say with the French league, you struggle with sometimes, adapting to the Premier League. Obviously, Pepe, the probably the most recent sort of example in our recent business, and sort of for the price tag they're looking at. I know it's varied between 55, 68 million. I think that's a lot of money when Tielemans is available for cheaper and is obviously this Premier League proven. And then just quickly on Arthur, I think that I'm not sure on the links there. I know we said I'm not a fan of him personally. I think that it would be a stupid signing for the club. I think that when I watched him at Barcelona, he looked good. I've only seen bits of him at Juventus, and he's not really impressed me. And I know Gabriel has come out and said, that he is happy at Arsenal, but in all these links, I'm seeing sort of Gabriel being involved, and that would just be an awful spot move for me. So for me, Tielemans would be my pick of the three.
Got just a comment here on screen by Neil. As soon as Torreira has gone, we will sign Tielemans. We just need to get rid of the deadwood first to make space for new signings. Chris, you spoke about this off air. We spoke about this, all three of us, that maybe Arsenal have agreed everything with Tielemans, personal terms, and they have probably told him, let's wait, we need to make space for signings, but we'll come and get you. Do you sense that could be a realistic proposition that they've offered Tielemans?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just how it looks from the outside, and just the sense you get, that, because obviously we at football.london have reported previously that talks between Arsenal and Tielemans' camp have taken place. There is a long-standing interest there, no doubt about that, and very highly admired by Mikel Arteta. And with that in mind, and considering that these talks have taken place over a long period of time now, you just get the sense that much of the groundwork has been laid out for the club to maybe revisit this deal later down the line. And obviously, as that comment mentioned there, Lucas Torreira, I think obviously because he is a central midfielder, he operates in that area of the pitch. Arsenal, could then obviously look to move to Tielemans once or if Torreira departs, because that obviously opens up a little bit of a gap there. So I can see it being a realistic option. Absolutely, it wouldn't surprise me to see that happen and see how that is how things play out. I guess you've just got to hope in the meantime that no other club comes in for Tielemans and turns his head, because it's a possibility. I know Manchester United have sort of been credited with interest, but it doesn't seem as if there's anything imminent on that front. And that goes for the same with any other club. There doesn't seem to be any other sort of imminent interest or deal towards Tielemans. It just seems as if Arsenal have remained the favourites and in pole position. But like I say, the longer it goes on, the longer it drags on, the more consequences it could have. So, hopefully, fingers crossed. We've been mentioning all these names that could depart, but Nicolas Pepe and Lucas Torreira in particular could be key. And I'm sure we'll probably go on to why Pepe's key in a moment. Obviously, there's been reports overnight suggesting that Torreira has left the squad in America to resolve his future. So fingers crossed, maybe this time next week there's been significant developments. We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I mean, as things stand, looking in from the outside, it does seem as if Arsenal have positioned themselves strongly for Tielemans. But now we're just waiting to see what happens with some of our players first.
Alfie, midfield, we've touched on, but I'm going to come to this mystery winger position. There's been a lot of talk. Fabrizio Romano has said Arsenal are eyeing a mystery winger, but they're not giving much away in terms of this signing. During the start of the window, Arsenal's priority in this position was Rafinha. Unfortunately, he had his heart set on a move to Barcelona, but these things happen. There's been links to Leroy Sane of Bayern Munich. There's been links during the start of the window to Serge Gnabry, Moussa Diaby, but those two deals are not going to materialize, with Serge Gnabry renewing his contract and Moussa Diaby confirming that he will be staying at Leverkusen for the forthcoming season. But in the past, there's also been links to Jarrod Bowen when Rafinha was in the media. Do you think this could be the mystery winger?
I know there was previous links, with Bowen. But I think personally, if we were to sign Bowen, I just think it's a deal that I don't want to say it doesn't make sense, because he is a good player. I know we said earlier about him. He had a top season for West Ham. It was brilliant in the run in the Europa League. I think he got 12 goals, 12 assists in the Premier League, which is obviously a fantastic output for a winger. But I think there's 3 years left on his contract. West Ham have still got, albeit the Conference League, they've still got European football next season. And I think they'll be asking for a lot of money for him. I know previous reports have suggested over 70 million. And I think that the fact that West Ham aren't in a position to sell, and I think Declan Rice has said, is he staying one more year with West Ham? So I think, the fact that West Ham, they're not sort of selling the best players, that they're keeping them, I think there's more incentive for him to stay, because I've just seen there about West Ham, it will want 70. No chance they'll want 70 mil plus for him. I think personally, he's not worth 70 million plus, but he's worth that to West Ham because of sort of the output that he's given this season. And I think that's sort of a stumbling block in the move for me. And that's why I don't think that we would sign him. But going on about the mystery winger, it is exciting. It's sort of, no one's got a clue. And it is brilliant that we've managed to keep all these links quiet. But then it's also like, I'm not sure who's available on the market. We'll see. But for me, not Bowen. That's all I can say on the matter.
It's interesting because West Ham tend to be looking to buy a lot of players. They've been linked with Armando Broja, Skamaka, Onana, and they've reportedly tabled bids of up to 100 million or so for those three players. So what it seems to be from the outside is where they're getting this money from. So it remains to be seen. It's an interesting one. But Chris, I'm going to come to you. There's a player that a lot of fans have been talking about. It's not really been in the media until yesterday with what the German press have been saying about Leroy Sane, and that's not really hot at the moment. But it feels to me personally that what with Sadio Mane coming to Bayern Munich, Serge Gnabry renewing his contract, Leroy Sane, since he joined from Manchester City, he's not had the best of times there. Injuries have hampered him. His progression has startled. Do you think a reunion with Mikel Arteta could be just what he needs at this stage of his career?
Well, even just talking about it's put a smile on my face, because I think it would be a great signing. Like really would be a statement of intent, just like Jesus was. Really, we're talking about a player that, okay, you mentioned there the struggles he's had at Bayern Munich since moving there from City, but he's still such a talented player that can play comfortably on the left or right hand side. He's creative, he's pacey, he runs, he works hard. He's obviously a threat in front of goal as well, and I think this, sort of emphasises the need for a winger that's going to come in to not obviously just cause problems for the opposition down the flanks, and not just to provide the assists and create opportunities, but to score goals as well. Saka does it, Martinelli does it, and if Jesus has an off day and Nketiah has an off day, or for whatever reason one of them isn't in the side, we need to rotate a little bit. We're going to need goals. This is the thing. Obviously, the role for the striker, their job is to score goals. That's just facts. But it should be a collective effort, a joint effort. Every single one of those attacking players in the team can score goals and should look to score goals whenever possible. I think it was yesterday we were speaking about Martin Odegaard, or it was this morning, one of the two, when there was a comment about his lack of goals from the number 10 role, and that's true. It's an area of his game which he needs to improve on. But like I say, it's not just down to him; it's down to all of those forwards to score goals and be an attacking threat. And Leroy Sane would certainly ease the pressure of the strikers and some of the other players in there, because we know he has that in him to score goals and sort of provide special moments when they're needed. I remember the time at his time at City really well, and just stood out every time you watched him because of his flair and attacking quality, and like I say, the ability to provide and produce quality moments. So I just think his profile would fit in. Sorry, the telephone's ringing. That's helpful.
On the line.
I'll go get on the phone and try and wrap up a deal for Sane. But excuse me. Obviously his fit, it would be absolutely incredible, and it would be a top signing. Absolutely. I'm going to pass it on to Alfie so this stops ringing.
Yeah, I've got a question for you, Alfie, as well. There's a comment on screen by Neil Gunner 93. He feels Pedro Neto could be the one. Pedro Neto, he's had his injury problems. He's Jorge Mendes. He works with him, but he's had that injury problems with that knee injury he suffered. But prior to that knee injury, I thought he would be an attainable target if Arsenal were looking to buy a wing forward. But do you think it would be the right signing? It would be a risk, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think, like you mentioned, the sort of injury record that he's had. I think a knee injury as well, for any footballer, is always. We've seen. I think probably one of the biggest examples at Arsenal. Hector Bellerin. Before his injuries, it looked like he was set to play for Arsenal for years, and he just lost his pace. And obviously, that was one of the things that he heavily relied on. And so I think it's always a risk, but he's still young. you know, he still has impressed me when he's played for Wolves, and I think he is a really good player, and I think he would improve us. But like you say, it's just sort of this last season he's only made sort of a handful of appearances, so I think that's always, like you say, a big risk for. I can't see him being too cheap. I think has he just recently signed an extension, and I think that could be, with looks to, if they do sell him, bump up the price tag a bit. That's sort of always the case with those sort of things. But just sort of, on the other, I mean, someone saying there his injury, after his injury, his levels have dropped. But also another mention about Asensio from Real Madrid, another player that's had, I think he had a knee injury, but he's sort of bounced back. I think this season he's had his best goal return. And another player that I think would fit in well. It's obviously Mikel Arteta's a fan of him. So this, I think the thing is with this mystery winger, we could name any winger on the planet. I've just seen another comment mentioning Neymar. I would love it. I think the thing is, at the minute, we seem to be getting linked with anyone who is Brazilian. No matter what, a Brazilian winger will be linked with him because of Edu. So, I would love, a player like that. But it's I trust Edu and Arteta. I think last summer proved it. I disagreed with a couple of the signings. Some of the signings we made, perhaps I hadn't heard of. I mean, Tomiyasu. For me, I'd never seen him play before, and he was up there with one of our better signings. So, and I think he's obviously a fantastic defender. We've just got to hope that his injury record doesn't halt his Arsenal career. So, I put full faith in whoever Edu and sort of Mikel Arteta pick as this mystery winger, as Fabrizio Romano says.
We've got time for a couple of questions. Chris, are there any plans to get a backup right back? I don't trust Cedric, and it looks like Tomiyasu is not match fit by Boila.
Well, hopefully my telephone doesn't go off again in a minute. It'll just be my luck. I think really looking at the lack of sort of links to any right backs, certainly in recent weeks, it would appear that the club are relatively happy with Tomiyasu and Cedric there. We obviously now have William Saliba back as well. We know he can fill in at right back if required, as can Ben White. So there appears to be sort of, enough depth, enough options there. I mean, look, personally, I'm not one of Cedric's biggest fans, and I think there are better options out there. No disrespect to him, but players that can do a better job or a more sort of all-round job, more consistently and more reliably. But yeah, I'd expect him to stay for another season at least, unless obviously a decent offer comes in for him, and then that could get heads turning. But yeah, certainly for now, it looks as if there's no plans to bring in a right back.
Alfie, got a question here from Jay. If Arsenal could get Elise for less than the 35 million release clause, and including Reece Nelson in the offer, that would be a great deal. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think he's a fantastic player in Elise. Showed it before at Reading, and then obviously he's made the move and has impressed when he's played. And I think it's actually interesting, including Nelson in a deal. I've seen another comment from Graham about using players for potential swaps, and we've been on about struggling to get players sort of out of the club. I think it is actually really interesting because we've been on about Reece Nelson this morning, saying we think he's a good player, and I personally said I'm not sure whether he's sort of the level for backup for Bukayo Saka, and obviously being ruthless. So it's not like we're giving Palace a player that's not very good. He's obviously got loads of room to improve. I think, give him a couple of seasons in the Premier League, consistently playing, and, I think he could become a really good winger for them. And Elise, I believe he played for us when he was very young as well. So maybe there's still some links from the club, probably not, but I think it would be a good signing, but one that, for me, I've seen no links with. So who knows, perhaps he is the mystery winger as we continue to search for him.
Chris, got a question here from Razzie. We 100% should be going for the Europa League. Arsenal right now are more than capable of winning. Do you guys agree? It's quite interesting, that question, to be honest, because Arsenal fans, a lot of them, including myself, were thinking that this forthcoming season, Arsenal need to get into the top four. I think a successful season for Arsenal is top four. A trophy would be nice, but in my opinion, I think proving it over the course of the season, 38 games, is much better than winning a trophy. People might think he's being silly here, but I think over the course of the season, I think Mikel Arteta will prove that he's done a good enough job. But what's your thinking around that?
Yeah, well, I mean, top four has been our mission for the last few years now, hasn't it? To get back where this football club absolutely deserves and needs to be. You know, a club of this stature, it needs to be participating in the Champions League every season against some of the best clubs in the world. And you know, those within the club have often spoken about the ambition and sort of the objective to get back there as soon as possible. And obviously the transfer business that we've seen, not just this summer but last summer as well. You know, it all. Oh, I don't believe it. Here we go again. Edu needs to calm down. But look, you know, I just think, you know, it needs to be the ultimate goal. Top four, it should be viewed as minimum. But, you know, that is just how it should be for this club. And yeah, I mean, look, we've got a very good chance with the business we've done already. It's going in the right direction. I can see Alfie smirking there. You'll start me off again. It's going in the right direction with Gabriel Jesus now, who's looked so sharp in pre-season. There's no reason, you know, why he can't go into the next campaign and bang in 20 goals for us. I genuinely, I know some people may sit there and be like, "Oh, that's quite, you know, a high demand," but genuinely, with the early signs so far, the movement, the positions he gets himself into. Someone's trying to call me on my mobile now, so it must be desperate. You know, there's no reason why he can't score that amount of goals, especially with the creativity and the threat that we've got surrounding him as well. We've obviously been talking about a new winger potentially coming in who can add to that quality. So, yeah, fingers crossed, you know, we've got a good chance next season. I mean, it's painful to look back on the one just gone, isn't it? Because it was so narrowly missed. And it's the closest we've got to getting back to that Champions League participation. But look, it is what it is. Everything happens for a reason, and you never know. You'd like to think that the struggles, the ups and downs, the experiences from last season makes this Arsenal squad stronger. And obviously now we've since added even more quality and experience, winning mentality, really, which is key in Zinchenko and Jesus in particular. So, yeah, fingers crossed. I'm hopeful, and hopefully we can, you know, give it a blooming good go again.
Well, one more final question for Alfie. It's quite interesting, this one. Saliba is a must-start in place of Ben White at Palace. True or false?
I think we've had this discussion as well. It was it's a tough choice. I think if Ben White continues, you know, with these sort of these injury worries, then I think Saliba will play. Obviously, he's impressed us in pre-season, and I think he's got the quality too. But we'll see. I think another comment suggested, you know, playing Ben White at right back and having Saliba and Gabriel in there. I think that's just the main thing. Is it's great to have these debates because we've got that much quality at centre half now. I don't think any answer is wrong. But yeah, it'd be great to see him involved if he doesn't start. But I think it could go either way. It just depends sort of on the fitness of Ben White. You know, if he can sort of get over that little injury worry that he had, and you know, if he gets in the next couple of games a few minutes, then I think it will be a tough choice for Arteta. Probably a tougher choice for Arteta than it is for me.
We're going to wrap up the show here because I know Edu's on the line, and then obviously Chris needs to deal with that. But thank you for everyone for watching, commenting. It's been a great show. I'd like to thank my guests. Alfie, first of all, thank you for jumping on, mate.
No, thank you both for having me on, and thank you everyone for listening. I just hope that it is Edu on the phone to Chris, and we can find out who that mystery winger is.
Chris, likewise, thank you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you guys. I apologise about the phone ringing in the background. Do you know what the annoying thing is that every time I prepare to go on a stream, I take the phone out of the room that I'm in, but it's the actual holder that, you know, you put the phone in, which the sound's still coming from. I've got the phone through there, but it's still ringing through in here annoyingly. But yeah, if it is Edu, I'll be sure to let you guys know, and I'll try and figure out who this winger is.
Love that, love that. But yeah, like I said, thank you for everyone for jumping, watching the show, liking and subscribing, and make sure to keep following us down the Arsenal way.
49, 49, and it's playing for glory, Arsenal.